So, member navigation in MDX is a very useful feature where you can access the immediate relatives and the other one is remote relatives. Immediate relatives means the relatives surrounding immediate members, the immediate members surrounding to the current member. Whereas remote relatives is the relatives that are remotely surrounded to the current member. It is the same like the regular relations, right? You have siblings, you have cousins and all. Okay. So, this is called hierarchy navigation. That means how you navigate within a given hierarchy. So, we are talking about in a hierarchy, in one hierarchy, not across the hierarchy. So, if you look at this picture here, we are talking about immediate relatives in this picture. So, assuming that this member is our current member, that means the member in our current context. Okay. If this member is a current member, then these two means the members that are next to the current member are siblings. Okay. They are called siblings, and the parent is called a parent. A parent of current member is called parent, and the member that are derived out of the current member are child member. So, it is not derived, but it is like a parent child relation. Okay. So, the members that are next level of current member and that are directly derived from the current member are called child members. Okay. So, this is immediate relationships. So, the member has parent, 2 siblings in this case and 3 children. Okay. That is immediate relatives. Next, we have something called distant relatives or remote relatives. Okay. So, in case of distant relatives, we call them as ancestors and descendants, because when in case of immediate relatives, we are calling parent and child, because we are talking about just one level up and one level down. So, that is why we were calling them as parent and child. But when we look at the distant relatives, we are talking about not just up and down, that means not just one level. We are talking about multi-level relationships, that means multi-level distance between the current member and the member we are interested in. So, in this case, in this picture, this one shows a distant relationships or distant relatives of the current member. And if we think this member is our current member, then all the members thus are derived out of the current member or thus are children of current member are called descendants. Okay. So, the this one is a child and then next level is grandchildren, right. So, like that, if you want to navigate to more than one level, you use distant relationships. So, in case of distant relationships, you call descendants and ancestors. If you go to the parent levels, it is called ancestors, and if you go to the child level, that means the lower level, it is called descendants. So, if you look at this picture, the parent is called ancestor also. So, in the immediate relationships, we call it this member as parent of current member. And when we talk about distant relative terminology, we are calling the parent as ancestor. Okay. Similarly, in case of child, when we are talking about immediate relatives, we were calling this member as child, right, child 1 and child. But in terms of distant relative terminology, we are calling the same member as descendant. So, that means in MDX you can use the parent function which refers to the immediate parent, or the ancestor function, which can be used to get multi level relationship to get the parent. That means, you can get the parent by using two approaches. One is using a parent or the ancestor. So, MDX provides two kinds of ways to access the parent. One is using ancestor functions or using parent functions. Similarly, for the child, immediate children can be accessed using the child functions or descendant functions. So, there are two options available for immediate relationships, and then there is something called cousin. Okay. Cousin is basically a parents siblings child. Okay, that is cousin. Whereas the member here is a sibling, right, because that member is the child of same parent. That is why we were calling a sibling. But in this case here, this member is not direct child of this ancestor or this parent. So, this parent's sibling's child is the cousin. Okay. So, that is the distant relative terminology, and MDX provides different functions to access these members. So, we will talk about immediate relatives first. So, in case of immediate relatives, MDX provides these functions that can be used to access immediate relatives. So, for example, children can be used to access the children, as it says parent, first child, last child, siblings, first sibling, last sibling. Okay. So, we will try a couple of examples to see how these functions can be used in MDX. Okay. So, before going with immediate relatives, I want to see how we can first access the current member. Okay. So, current member can be accessed using current member function. So, I will go ahead and create one calculated member with member to access current member's name. Okay. So, measures dot, that is a calculated measure I am creating, current member name as. So, in this case I want to play with date dimension, and I will pick maybe year or month. Okay. So, I want to use calendar year dot current member dot member underscore name. So, member underscore name is the property of current member, which gives the name of the member. Okay. So, that is my calculated member here, or calculated measure you can call, and I want to see, let us say I just want to see this one. I do not want to get any measure, instead I want to see the calculated measure value, comma my calendar year. From Adventure Works, that is it. So, what I am trying to do here is, I want to access current member's member name property, and my current member is coming from the calendar year members or level. Okay. So, oops. If I execute this query, what do I see? I see the member name property. Okay. So, this is the property of current member. Let us say if I do not specify current member here, I will just take out current member. I still get the same value. That means, current member is a default value when you do not specify anything here. So, if you do not specify what member you want to pick, MDX by default considers the current member. Okay. So, current member is optional in this case, but you might need to explicitly specify current member in some scenarios. So, it is always recommended to use the current member function there, okay, though it is a default. Similarly, you can access different properties of current member. So, for example, member key, I want to access member key. So, that means when we are designing the dimension, we specify the attribute key and name, right. So, key name values. So, member name is the name value and key is the member key is the key value. So, I want to see what is the member key for this particular level. So, that is a member key. So, the numbers are the key values and the strings are name values. Similarly, have a couple of other properties like member value and member value function. So, this is one of the properties within the attribute settings within the dimension wizard. So, what does it gives is the value you want to use for that particular member. So, what is the difference between key, name and value then? So, here it shows the value. So, the difference is name is what you see in the reports, right. Generally, this is the value you want to see in the reports. That means, you want to have English string which is more user friendly or readable format, whereas the key is the value you want to use for mapping purposes. That means, within the dimension mapping you want to use the key to map to the fact table, so that the performance is faster. So, when analysis services does the mapping between dimension tables and fact tables or dimension key member and fact or measure group, it will have better performance when we use the integers. Okay. That is the two purposes. Key is used for mapping and member name is used for presentation. So, member value is the one you might want to specify a different value for calculation purposes. That means, though key is used, let us say here key is 2007, which is same as member value. By default, if you do not specify member value, the value will be same as the key. But in case you want to use a different value as a value and you want to use that for other calculations, you can specify a different column or different value or different column to this property. Okay. But in general, we do not change this one, we generally use the default value. Okay. But there is option to change it. So, those are the three useful properties of current member, and these properties are not only can be used with current member, they can be used with any other immediate relatives. That means, if you are accessing the child, you can access child's member name property. That means, this member properties can be accessed for any member that we are using in that or we are querying in this expression. So, that is about current members. So, next we will see how we can access a sibling. Okay. I will take the same thing, member measures dot previous member, or we will start with the child, first child parent. Okay. So, parent dot parent. So, dot parent gives the parent value of the current member, and here I want to access the member name again. So, once you are accessing the parent member, you can access any of the property of that particular member. Okay. So, I want to access the parent members property. So, what I am getting here, a parent is all periods, because we are at year level. So, the current member in this case is calendar year, right. So, if you look at the hierarchy, calendar year is the top level. After calendar year there is nothing, it is all periods, that is the top level, that is what we are getting here. So, for example, let us say if I go to the specific specific month, or I can say we do not have month here, month of the year, I can no. So, we will talk about parent later, but the idea is parent function gives the parent members property. Okay. So, since calendar is the year is the top level, I am getting the all periods as my parent, because there is no other top level, I am already at the top level. Okay. So, if I say, let us say if I use semester, okay, with member So, this time I will use quarter, because quarter is in the middle. I can try parent and child. Select and one from adventure works. Okay, let us run this. Oh, okay. So, the mistake I was making is I was accessing the individual levels. So, that concept topic we are discussing about is hierarchy navigation, right. So, this one works in the hierarchies. So, I missed that part. So, we were talking about hierarchy navigation. Okay. So, these functions works in hierarchy. Hierarchy in the sense when we define a hierarchy with parent child relationships, because if I access these levels, right, there is no hierarchy here. These are single level hierarchies. Okay. So, that is why I am always getting current all periods. So, let us say now I will use the hierarchy where I can actually see the effect. So, calendar date calendar, I will not use this because I can directly access that function. So, let us say I want to get internet sales. So, this is internet sales amount for August 2013. Now, I want to see what is the internet sales for its parent. Parent is, in this case, what is the parent? So, if you look at this hierarchy here, so we are at this level, month level, right. So, we are accessing the month, a member in the month level. So, what will be the parent? Parent of the month will be a quarter. So, we should be getting the sales of the quarter. So, if I just say parent and I run this guy, I should be getting quarter value. Okay. So, in real time applications, when do you use this parent and this immediate relative functions is when you know a value. Let us say user selected some month, right, and you want to navigate to its corresponding year. So, in that case you use these functions. So, you know the month, that means you know the current month what user picked, but you want to navigate to its year level to see what is the year of current member. So, for example, let us say there is sales, right, the same example, sales amount. So, if there is some sales in this month, or depending on the sales amount this month, what is the percentage of sales we achieved in current month in the whole year. That means, how much sales we made compared to, that means it is a weighted average kind of thing. So, out of all the 12 months or whatever the months happened so far, what is the weightage of current month when we talk about total sales of this year. So, if there were $1 million of sales in this whole year, what is the weightage of current month sales? Okay. If you have such a requirement where you know the current month, so you get the current month value. Now, your next challenge is to get what is the sales value of current year, right. So, to get that one you need to navigate to the year level. So, you are at month level where you know what is the current month, which is 2013 August, or August. You know the sales of August, but you want to get the sales of the current year of this whatever the member. So, in that case you can use these functions to navigate to the higher level, but using just the parent you are just going one level up. So, for example, let us say your hierarchy has calendar year and then calendar month, in the next level, then you could use just the parent to reach to the year level. Okay, but in this case I have calendar semester and calendar quarter also. That is why when I said parent, I am going to the quarter level. Okay. So, this is about parent. Now, we will talk about children. How do we access children members or child members? So, if I copy the same statement, all I will be saying is children. When I say children of August 2013, I should be getting all the days, because that is the next level. After month I have the date. So, if I execute this guy, I get the sales of the days, that means sales of all the children, that means whatever the measure value of all the children of current member. Current member in this case is 2013 August. Okay. So, now we are getting all the children here. There were around 30 children for August 2013. Now, if I want to access the first child, I can use first child function. In the same expression, I can say first child, which will return me the first child of this member. So, which is August 1st. Similarly, last child will give me the last child value. Okay. And similarly, we have a function called siblings, and first sibling, last sibling as well. First sibling returns. So, if you look at this diagram here, in this hierarchy, this parent has three children. This parent has 3 children, and my current member is this guy, the middle one. So, my first sibling will be the one left to this current member. My last sibling will be this one. But let us say there were 4 or 5 siblings, then you will get the first sibling will be the first member, assuming that it is a child of this parent. The first sibling will be the first member under parent. Okay. First sibling is July. So, if you want to see how this is working, you can expand this hierarchy. We were 2013 we were talking about here. July, August, September, right. So, the current member in our case is August. The first sibling here would be July, and the last sibling would be September. Okay. So, let us say my current member is July. So, in this query I said current member as August, but let us say if my current member as July, what will I get when I use first sibling? I get July, because July is the first sibling of the parent. So, even though current member is itself is July, we still get July as the first sibling. So, first sibling will always be the first child of the parent. in this case July. Similarly, last sibling is, it gives the last sibling value. So, that is September. So, why do we use first sibling or last sibling functions? Each case scenario I could think of is, let us say you want to calculate how many months are left in current year, or maybe how you want to know how many months are left in current quarter. So, when you want to know how many months left in current quarter, you want to use the current member and the last sibling and then do the difference. Let us say if your current member is July, then when you access the last sibling you will get September. Then you can basically see the difference, how much is the distance between these two siblings. Then you can know what is the, how many months are left in current month, current quarter. Similarly, let us say there is a requirement to find how many months are over in the current month. So, if you are in September, you should be able to tell that 2 months are over in current quarter. So, how do you get that 2 months thing? You get the first sibling and then you calculate how many, what is the distance between the first sibling and the current member. So, that gives you the number of months between number of months already passed in current quarter. Okay. So, when we are in a month, why is it getting a member from quarter? So, we are, our current member is month. What is a sibling? Sibling is a parent's child, same parent's child is called sibling. So, what is my parent? Quarter. My current member is month and my parent is quarter, and my sibling will be a month under the quarter. So, in this case here my parent is always a quarter, because in this hierarchy we have year, semester, quarter and month. So, at the month level, whenever I access a sibling, that is a sibling under the current quarter. Okay. So, that is about siblings. So, we saw child, we saw siblings. So, there is siblings, we saw first sibling and last sibling functions. Then there is something called siblings. What does siblings give? Siblings gives us all the siblings of current member. All the siblings means the children of the current member's parent. Children of current member's parents, right? Those are siblings, your brothers and sisters. So, in this case, irrespective of which member I am in, I get always the same values. That means the same set, which is all the siblings under my parent. Okay. So, these functions are useful when you want to navigate within the hierarchy. Generally, when you want to do weighted average, when you want to calculate how are we doing in current month, and let us say you are working on inventory calculations, right. You have XYZ amount of inventory and you want to decide whether your current inventory can fulfill for current quarter or can fulfill for current year. So, how do we decide if your inventory can suffice for current year? You need to know how many months are passed in current year and how many months are left in current year. Depending on that, you will calculate whether your inventory can suffice or not. So, in those kind of calculations you use this navigation functions. Similarly, other use cases, let us say your targeted revenue is $1,000,000. Okay. your targeted revenue is $1,000,000 for the year, and you want to calculate whether the probability of meeting that target. Okay, how do you calculate the probability of meeting the target? You want to know how many months are already passed in the current year, and you want to know how many months are left in the current year. Depending on that, you will see how much revenue we were making in each month. Depending on that, you will estimate whether you can meet those expectations or not. So, when you are building a KPI, let us say you are building a KPI which will say yellow, green, red, right. KPI is nothing but a key performance indicator. Okay. So, when you are building a KPI, you need to provide this MDX expression that can set the light to green, yellow or red, right. So, when you want to set the light, you want to return the value to say whether you can meet the expectations or not, or revenue expectations. So, then you can use this navigation functions to determine the months already passed in current year, and you can determine the months still left in the current year, and based on that you can do calculations. Okay. So, those are kind of use case scenarios where you want to use the navigations. Navigations are especially are used to estimate, okay, to estimate whether you can reach a target or not. So, that is immediate relatives. So, we saw how to access immediate relatives. Immediate relatives are nothing but the children, the parent, the siblings. Those are immediate relatives. Now, we have distant relatives. As we talked, not only can we access the immediate relatives which are the parent and child, we can actually skip to a specific level. So, for example, if my current member is at this level, right, let us say my current member is this guy, I want to skip to 2 levels. That means, I want to know parent's parent. Okay. So, if you have such requirement, we can use the distant relative functions. For example, in this case, let us see one example. My current member is July 2013. Okay. So, I get the sales amount for July 2013. Now, I want to get the sales amount of the calendar or quarter 2013. That means, I want to get the sales amount of my parent. What I can do? I can say just the parent, right, which will give me the sales of my current parent, or my current member is July 2013. So, I can get the sales of my immediate parent. Let us say I want to go one step ahead. I want to get the sales of my parent's parent. So, in this case, the parent's parent is H2CY 2013, because my current member is July, my parent is third quarter 2013, and my parent's parent is second semester 2013. I could say parent dot parent here, okay, which will take me to the semester level. Similarly, if I want to go to year level, I can say parent dot parent dot parent also, that also should work. But this is not an efficient approach, because you are limiting your calculation to go to a specific level, parent parent parent. Like if there are, let us say you have the hierarchy with 5-6 levels, and you are at the 6th level and you want to go to the top, you will be saying parent 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 10 times or 6-7 times, right, which is not an efficient. Instead, you can use relative distant relative functions like ancestors and descendants. Okay. So, in this case, let us say if I want to access the year from the current from the month as my current member, which is July 2013, I can use ancestor functions. Okay. So, answer the distant relative functions are we have ancestor, ancestors, ascendants, descendants, cousin. So, ancestor function returns a reference to an ancestor member, whereas ancestors function returns the ancestor member as a set. So, the difference between ancestor and ancestors is ancestors return the member as a set. Okay, that is important. That is the main difference. Ancestors return a member as a set. The output of ancestors function is a set, whereas the output of ancestor function is a single member. Okay. So, you may have a requirement where the output of this ancestor and ancestors has to be a set. So, there could be some limitations within MDX where the upper function may be expecting a set, right. In that case you will use ancestors, otherwise you can just go with ancestor function. Okay. So, let us see, for example, I want to use ancestor to access year. So, how can I do that? I can say ancestor my current member, and at what level I want to access the ancestor, means at what level ancestor I want to access. For example, here if my current member is at this level, at the 4th stage, at what level I want to access, is this the first level, second level or third level. Okay. So, that is my level, at what levels ancestor I want to access. Should I access a parent, should I access a grandparent, should I access a great grandparent, that is a level. So, in this case I want to access the year level parent. Okay. So, my year level is date dot calendar year. Okay. So, since I need to specify level, tuples or sets must use the same hierarchy in the ancestor. Okay, again I missed the hierarchy. So, it is calendar hierarchy, and the ancestors, all these relative functions should use the same hierarchy. Okay. So, they cannot go across the hierarchies. Date dot calendar year. So, this one returns the year level, which is same as parent and parent. So, if you look at the difference between these two functions, by functionality they are doing the same thing. Okay. The parent dot parent dot parent is also returning year level value, whereas ancestor is also returning the year level value. But the difference is, here depending on the levels you want, you need to specify so many, repeat the function so many times. That means, what is happening when the MDX is executing, it takes this current member and then it needs to get the parent. Once it returns the parent, it has to get the parent of parent, I mean that member's parent, and once that member is accessed, it needs to find its parent, right. That means, it is doing 3 times operation to get to the level we want. So, if we are at the 6th level, we are doing 6 times parent dot parent dot parent, right. That means, MDX has to get each member and go to its parent. That means, it needs to physically navigate, whereas in ancestor function you are specifying at what level you want to go. That means, MDX does not need to get each member and go skip to the parents. Instead, it can directly go to the level we want to access. Okay. So, that is why this is more efficient. Okay. So, if you are doing some kind of small testing or some practice queries, you may do this, you may tempted to do this, because this is feels easy, but the efficient way is to use the proper functions. So, you can do the same thing. Here we used ancestor function and we specified the level, right, the literal value. That means, I want to go to this specific level. Instead, you can say, you can specify the relative position as well. That means, you can say that from this assuming that we are at the 4th level, you can say that I want to skip or I want to access my ancestor at a 2nd level, or you could say I want to access my ancestor at the 3rd level. Okay. So, you can specify a relative position as well. So, when you specify a relative position, when you specify relative position, MDX behaves the same way as specifying the level, actual level. So, in this case, let us say I want to specify 3, that means I want to go the 3rd level. So, which also returns the same value. So, you can use ancestor function and you can specify the level name, or you can specify the relative position as well. Okay. So, similarly ancestors. So, the difference between ancestor and ancestors is ancestor returns a member, whereas ancestors return a set. Okay. But the value that you see is same. So, let us say you have some other Uber function on this. Something like accept or maybe filter. So, you are having a Uber function, the outer level function, which expects a set, okay, in the function. So, in that case you will go with ancestors. If your outer function expects a member, you may use ancestor function. So, depending on how you want to use, you can interchange between ancestor and ancestors. But if you are just writing MDX expressions like this, you can either go with ancestors or ancestor. Okay. So, let us say I want to use ancestors, okay, and I want to create a calculated member, calculated measure with member measures dot. I want to access member name, just a simple calculation as date dot calendar dot current member. That means, I want to take the current member and I want to go to the year level. I want to go to the year level and get the value. Let us say I say dot member underscore name, okay, because I want to access member name property. So, let us say what happens here. Let us see how this query behaves when I want to access the member name property. So, what I am supposed to do in this query? My intention is to get the name or member name property of the current member's ancestor at calendar year level. So, I want to get the member name property of current member's ancestor at calendar year level. Okay, that is my intention, that is what I want to do. So, if I run this guy, it says error. If you hover it, when you see errors in MDX, you can just hover on this and see the error message. The member name function expects a member expression for the argument 1. A tuple set expression was used. That means, the member name property or function. Okay, member name function expects a tuple, but what it says, I am supplying a set instead of a tuple. So, why I am supplying set? Because I am using ancestors function. Since I am using ancestors function, though this function is returning a single value, it is returning a set that consists a single member. That is why it is saying I cannot use member name function. So, let us say in this case I change this one to ancestor. Now, what happens? This function ancestor returns a tuple. When a tuple is returned, I can access its member name using member name function. Now, it returns me the name. Okay. So, that is the main that is the reason where you can swap between ancestor and ancestors. Let us say you have a requirement where you must return a set, or you are returning a set, but you want to access its member name. Okay, you cannot change this, assuming that you cannot change this, or assuming that you are using some other function, something else which always returns a set. So, for example, descendants, right, there is no I do not know if we have descendant, but let us assume that there is a function that always returns a set and you want to access its member name. So, what you could do is, there is something called item 0. Item function returns which item in the set to be accessed. Okay, item of whatever the index accesses that particular item in that set. Okay. So, now if I run this guy, it returns me the member name property or member name value. So, though this ancestors function is returning a set, after this function returns a set, I am accessing the first member or the first item in that set, and then I am getting the member name property using member name function. Okay, that is how you can basically do the trick. So, if you are getting a set and you want to access a specific member or a specific item, you can use item. Now, we will talk about ancestors. No, ascendants. We already discussed about ascendants. I hope this is correct. Okay. So, I will take this same thing . So, what is the difference between ancestor and ascendants? Ancestors and ascendants both should be doing the same thing, right? Ancestor goes to the higher level, ancestor level, and gets the members. What does ascendants do? Ascendants also does the same thing, but ancestors can go to a specific level. For example, if you are at this level, if this is a current member, and if you say I want to access my ancestor at the second level, relative position, second position, it can go and access this ancestor, and you will return or you will get only this ancestor member. But in case ascendance, you can get all the ascendance. Ascendance means all the parent members, that means parent, parents, parents, grandparent and all, until the level you specified. Okay, that is the difference between ancestor and ascendance. Ancestor returns only the specific the member at the specific level whichever you requested for, whereas ancestors gives the total hierarchy till the level you wanted. Okay. So, let us see an example on ascendance. Okay. Let me just clarify again, I do not know if I said the other way. So, myself getting confused. Ascendance, okay, sorry. Ancestor gives a member at a specific level, whatever we requested for. Ascendance will give the member, will give all the members in the hierarchy till the level we specified. So, ascendance, ancestors. Ancestor gives the member at a specific level, it gives only that member, whichever member you are looking for at a given level, whereas ascendance gives all the members till that level. Okay. So, let us see an example without getting confused. So, ascendance, the syntax is similar to ancestor function. So, you will be specifying but the thing is only you need to specify what is your current member, where to start. Yeah, current member and where to end. Okay, let us first try just the ascendance. So, my current member is July 2013 and I want to see all the ascendants till the calendar year. Okay. So, on 0 or maybe I will say on 1 and I want to see the sales amount on the columns. I need to check the syntax. Okay, ascendance does not take a level, sorry, it is only for descendants. Okay. Ascendance takes only the current member. So, it will take the current member and returns all the ascendants, whereas descendants takes the member, the distance or the level we want to go. So, for ascendance I will be just specifying the current member. So, it will take the current member and it returns all the hierarchy till the top. So, whereas descendants, in case of descendants, yeah, in case of descendants you can specify till what level you can go. For example, if I want to go till calendar year level, no, descendants is opposite, right. I need to be at the higher level first. That means this hierarchy map descendants is I need to be at the top and I need to go down. Descendants will give the lower level members, not the upper level. So, I will say that from the starting from calendar year, I want to see the descendants till the month level. Okay. So, it shows the descendants at the month level, whereas ascendants will show all the levels. It will go till the top, that means till the root level, whereas descendants will go down, that means to the child levels at the specified level. So, descendants gives the values at the given level for the current member. Okay. But this descendants always goes to the down, that means the lower levels. And there is a third parameter in case of descendants. Okay. And if you look at the syntaxes, descendants will take member and level expression and the flag, or similarly it can take the distance as we saw with ancestors, where you can specify what distance you want to go, 2, 3, the relative distance. Similarly, it can take set expression as well. So, that means if your inner expression is returning a set, you can use it directly instead of saying item 0. Okay. But the main difference is when you are using descendants, you can specify either level expression or you can specify the distance. So, let us say I want to specify, I already specified the level. Let us say I want to specify the distance instead of level. So, I get the same numbers, that means I am getting the descendants at the level 3 down from the current member. And now apart from this one, there is something called descendant flag, that means what kind of members you want to include. Okay. So, here I did not specify any flag, so it was returning the members at this level, that is month level. Let us say there are 3 descendant flags here, a self, which is the default value. So, there is another thing called self and after. So, what is it doing? The self means the self value means whatever the level we are specifying. Self and after returns the level that we are accessing, that is what it falls under self, and after, that means whatever the children after this level or whatever the descendants after this level. Okay. So, that is why I am getting the months as well. So, let us say if you put this one as a quarter instead of month, if we say I want to access the quarter at the quarter level, then what happens? It returns quarter, it returns month, and it returns days. So, descendants can be used same as ancestors when you use this flags, and similarly you have self and before also. So, what is it doing? It is doing the self is nothing but your calendar quarter, and before is the half yearly and the year, that is before, that means it is going up. Okay. So, you are using descendants to go up as well, but if you want to go up, you could always use ancestors instead of descendants. Okay. So, but descendants are mainly useful for self and after, or even most is self. That means you want to access the members at a given level, but MDX provides the flexibility to add those flags as well, descendant flags, where you can go up or down, but you generally do not use those functions for descendants. The purpose of descendants is always to get the members at a specific level for a current member. Then we have cousin. So, as I was saying, as we were seeing, cousin will return the value of the parent's child, the parent's sibling's child, right, which is a cousin. So, let us see how it behaves in this example. So, I want to see the cousin of August 2013, which is my month level, or July 2013. So, July 2013 cousins are under H1 or maybe under Q4. Now, these are my cousins, or you can go all the way to a different year as well. So, for example, I want to see a cousin in 2012. Calendar year 2012. So, what is it returning? The cousin of current member in year 2012. That means, it is going, if I go to my diagram here, so assuming that this is the year 2013, and this the left one is 2012. So, and this is my July, or even I say this is July. Okay. So, this is my July or my current member. I am asking to get my cousin from 2012. That means, it navigates to the year level, finds its sibling, which is 2012 what we specified, and then navigates to the child at the same relative position. Okay, that is a cousin. It is little tricky, but that is what the cousin does. Cousin function goes to the level where you want to find a cousin. So, in our example, we wanted to find a cousin at year for year 2012, right. So, it has to go to the year level. So, it goes to the year level and then finds the corresponding year 2012 member, then looks for the child at same relative position. Okay. So, that is the cousin function. Generally, cousin function is not frequently used, at least I have not seen a scenario where we use cousin. I mean, it is useful Like for example, a use case scenario where you want to see the sales compared to last year current month. That means how are we doing this year compared to last year. Okay. So, last year summer we sold so many products, air conditioners. How are we doing this year? So, to do that you want to access last year's sales of a specific month, because the coolers or air conditions are seasonal, right. You cannot basically consolidate the whole year. You have to go to the specific month and see how that sales are did in that month, and you want to come back to current month and then compare, right. That is a cousin. So, you are in so particular month this year, July month in this year, and you want to go back to July month of previous year to get the sales, and then you do comparison between the current month and the previous year's current month. Then you will see whether you are progressing or not in terms of sales. That is one of the use case scenario where you can use the cousin. And we saw before, after, before, self and all. So, self is the current level. So, assuming that my current level I asked for is at this level, that is the self, and after is the next levels, that means the lowest level, and before is the higher level, that means the parent level. So, when we say self, it gets all the members at the current level or the level we specified. When we say self and after, it returns the members at the level we requested for and the downstream levels. Similarly, when we say self and before, it gives all the members at the self current level and or the requested level and the before or the parent level. Okay. And the self before and self after are generally not used for MDX calculations. Instead, they could be used in reports. That means, you wanted to show all the current month values or maybe all the months and year values consolidated list. You may use the self after and self before functions. Okay. So, these are navigation functions, member navigation functions in MDX. So, we saw how to access immediate relatives, which is parent, child, first child, last child, siblings, first sibling, last siblings, which are the immediate relatives that are surrounding to the current member. And also we saw the distant relatives, where we accessed the higher level, that means more than the parent. That means, we accessed the year from being in the month as my current level. I could go to the year level, which is 2 levels up. Okay, that is distant relative. Similarly, we used descendants, and one thing you are not showing is ascendants here. Okay, ascendants and descendants function. And similarly, we see the cousin. Cousin will give you the corresponding cousin value at a given member level or at the given parent member level. Okay. So, that is about navigation functions in MDX.